Welcome to the FOSS Pebbles, Sand, and Silt unit taught in 2nd grade in the BPS Science. I'm going to be using the FOSS Web website to show you some important articles and links. If you do not have this information, please be sure to log on to SIS and go to the Science page to find out how to obtain a username and password. Once on the FOSS website, you will see that there are all sorts of different links. E-Teacher Guide is the entire teacher guide that you have a hard copy for attending the training. There's also teacher preparation videos where you can watch videos on how to do things if you're unsure on how to do it. There is also equipment photo cards for your ELL students if they need that visual along with what it is. This would help you. Investigation Duplication Masters, as well as Assessment Duplication Masters, ideas for taking FOSS outside. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to show you some of the different things inside the actual teacher guide. When you click on Table of Contents, you can see everything you need here. There'll be the unit overview, which tells you what your students are going to be doing in this unit. There's also materials, with a list of materials that you will need. And it also goes through materials that are supplied and not supplied, which I will go over that later as well. It tells you each investigation. As you can see, there are 4 different investigations for this particular unit. And these 4 investigations have anywhere from 3 to 6 class sessions per investigation, depending on which investigation it is. When you click on the investigation, they have the at-a-glance matrix, which is very helpful when planning out your unit. It will go over the inquiry question, the main inquiry question, the investigation summary, as well as science content and assessment opportunities. The student learning outcomes for this particular unit are that students will be able to investigate earth materials, observe and distinguish between clay, silt, sand, gravel, pebbles, cobbles, and boulders. Students will also observe other properties of earth materials such as humus and soil. To find the student learning objectives, you can visit the BPS Science Weebly site. To find out how to access that, you can click on the embedded video in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. When you print out the student learning outcomes, all of the grade 2 student learning outcomes by unit will be printed up. Though all of the science and engineering practices are touched upon in this unit, Practice 3, planning and carrying out investigations, is most visited. Students are going to plan out different investigations in this unit. They're going to plan and conduct investigations. They're going to make observations and measurements. They're going to make predictions based on prior experiences. Using a pacing calendar, you want to make sure that you use a pacing calendar, which you can find on the BPS Science Weekly if you do not have one. In order to use the pacing calendar, you need to find out when your science kit will be delivered. You want to mark those dates on the calendar and when it's going to be picked up. From there, count how many science classes you have. Based on that information and the total number of classes it will take to teach this entire unit, you need to figure out if you can fit all the curriculum in that amount of time. If not, what do you need to leave out? What do you need to condense? I have some tips in each investigation video to follow. On the side, the units of study, what I like to do is I like to write my objective for each day along with key vocab that's important for students to have. Visual aids. I do a lot of visual aids because I have a high number of ELL students, and they oftentimes come in as levels 1 or 2. So what I like to do is I like to print out different words in a picture. I also do lots of things with how can a boulder become a sand, which you'll notice is a question that will be in the unit. I also like to, with the sandpaper, they have to feel the sandpaper and come up with words to describe it. This is often hard, so what I'll do is I'll actually pass out different textures. We'll talk about how they feel, and we'll label those texture feelings before we go on to talking about rocks and how they feel. When we talk about where the 3 different rocks come from, I like to make a visual of where each of the rocks comes from in a volcanic eruption. So the tuff would come from the ash, the scoria would come from the foamy lava, and the basalt would come from the red-hot molten lava. There are a variety of assessment opportunities in this unit. There's anecdotal notes where you can go around and take notes when you see students working. There's also an assessment checklist. This assessment checklist, you can just simply do a plus or a minus if the student understands or does not understand that particular topic. It's broken down by investigation in parts, so it's very easy to use. And there's also two different types of the end of module assessment. There's the performance and then the written. If you're doing the performance assessment, make sure you still have the science kit available. I know I like to do my written assessment after the kits have been picked up, so I don't always have materials to do the performance assessment unless I go outside and I get rocks from outside to do it. Pebbles, sand, and silt outside. There are a lot of real-world connections here in this opportunity. If the weather permits, bring your students outside. There's going to be lessons where they need to see rocks in use and find rocks being used outside. So make sure you set the groundwork before going outside, the rules, but there's lots of different opportunities which I'll talk about in each investigation to follow. Notebooking is very important in science. To find out notebooking resources, you can visit the BPS Science Weebly. If you're unsure where to find the notebooking resources on the Weebly, you can click the embedded link to show you how to get there. If there's not enough time to cover all investigations, like I said, there are some ways to condense different units. And there's also some units that I always have to end up leaving out, unfortunately. So I'll talk to you about what those units are and if the students are missing content on those. I look forward to seeing you in the future videos.